Welcome to the Software People Stories. I'm Shiv.
I'm Chitra,
And I'm Gayatri.
We bring you interesting, untold stories of people.
associated with the creation
Or consumption of software-based solutions.
You'll hear stories of what worked.
and sometimes what didn't,
You will also hear very personal experiences.
and insights that would trigger your thoughts.
And inspire you to do even greater things. You got to meet Naresh Bansal. He talks about a lot of decisions he's made through his stellar career, right at the start of why he chose engineering to why he chose private sector, or how he decided to go to US or start his own firm. He's the co-founder of Clito.com, and here his pearls of wisdom that we narrate among ripples of laughter. Welcome to the Software People Stories, Naresh.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
For our listeners, would you like to introduce yourself in your words?
Sure. Myself, Naresh Bansal, have been doing software engineering since 90s, to be precise, since 1990. Did that for 20 years and later decided to move to a different business, which is a little more IT-enabled services rather than doing the hardcore software. Nevertheless, we still do the software because to support the IT-enabled services, again, we have to do the software. But my journey has been in different areas, which could be system software, all that we have seen since 1990. This world has changed drastically, where internet was not available, and now internet is available at phenomenal speed in my house itself. Also, in terms of how mainframe transformed into individual machines, or the Google changing that small nodes, computing power getting aggregated, all that we have seen. And we have seen this transformation possibly, I don't know, it still could be possible, but we've seen a huge change in terms of the computers and software. We are that generation which did not have much opportunity in India, and we saw it all happening in front of our eyes. And we have been part of that journey, and it feels great to be part of that journey.
I'm so happy that you're talking about the various segments in which we have worked, right? When I joined the workforce, I think it was like this huge desktops. And having a desktop at home was an unheard of. We had to struggle to have a desktop at home. Now we have the palm of our hand.
The computer in palm is actually much faster and bigger than, or the processor wise, even the speed is in terms of the storage. Probably we had the access to the computers. So I remember I started working with a company called PCL, Pertec Computers Limited. And my first job was to support / provide the marketing in terms of the product that we were marketing. It was a hardware-based company. So we were kind of taking the different kind of computers, which were supposed to be the state-of-the-art computer at that point of time, to different corporates and hoping to get a business. The computer that we were putting together was 386, having few MB of RAM, and the storage maybe having 25-30 GB of storage. Basically, we were putting the disks, which were full of rack of the disk, and that's how we were selling that computer. So now all that is available in the palm. That's true. Okay, how I ended up in computer science. That's an interesting story. I got admitted into engineering college in 1986. And prior to that, that's when Rajiv Gandhi became Prime Minister. And he was talking about computers is the next thing. We should focus on computers. I said, sure, we'll do that. So I decided in my family, everyone was going to civil engineering because that's what the thing happening at that point of time. And nobody would have heard about what computer can or cannot do, or nor I understood what computer can or cannot do, and or even for that matter how it looks, what capability or transformation it can carry out. Still, I believed in Rajiv Gandhi, and said, I'll take the computer. So that's how I ended up. It's almost convincing whole of my family, no, nothing doing. Whatever happens, happens. We'll figure out later. If it works, works. And doesn't work, didn't work. Basically, I got into computer science. Related story to that is when graduated and campus were happening. So before that, even before that, we did not see computer in our college for a year. I did not know how it looked like. And those computers, when finally showed up, they were with floppy drives, the big computer, big monitor, a mini computer in lab. But those were small capacity and only few, maybe 20, 30 computers in the lab. Then eventually we figured out, okay, what the compiler, operating system, this, that. But even when we graduated, there was no environment in India for the computer software. It was primarily few companies who were doing the software. For software, we were still dependent on US and everything and everywhere else. There were a few companies who were doing the software like Softtech, etc., were building compiler, etc. But there were no large-scale industries, and Infosys has done great job popularizing that. So the opportunity, which didn't exist, almost didn't exist, to now, it's a huge transformation that has happened. So another decision. So this was the first decision I took, that I'll go to the computer science, in spite of everyone in my family saying, "Hey, take the civil engineering. That would be the best thing to do." Then when I graduated, placement happening, I got two jobs. In one job was government office, and it was called assistant manager of, I was getting a job of assistant manager right away.
Okay.
Salary was almost the double of the other job, which was a private job. And designation was management training.
Okay.
I still decided to go to the private job, which was calling me the management trainee, giving the half of the government job.
But the growth might have been tremendous, right, Naresh?
Tremendous, right? So these two decisions, I'm just trying to define these two decisions that probably changed the course of my path.
And also your parents investing in your education, right? Coming from the rural UP and walking so many. Can you talk about that story from a schooling perspective, Naresh, if you don't mind?
Sure. Basically, I come from Muzaffarnagar. There is a town called Muzaffarnagar, or district called Muzaffarnagar in western UP. And this, I brought up in a village called Sautu, which is very small town village. There no major road passes through it, and you have to walk maybe 4 or 5 kilometers to get to any bus stand and things like that. So it was in a corner on the bank of a river, and there was no bridge, and therefore you end up, everything ends basically. So in this village, there was not much of education, or people don't go to education thinking as it's good for the career. They get there because they want to become the constable, or they want to go to military, and they want to pass the 10th or 8th, and then they can go on to that. My father and my mother, of course, well, in fact, my mother never went to school. She was illiterate, but she can do better maths than me even today. So they kind of thought that education is the thing. They took everything, whatever they have, and decided to educate all of us, not just me. We are 5 brothers and 1 sister. So they decided to put all that what they got into the education. And I think their foresightedness helped all of us. We became, some of us became a doctor, few became engineers, few became MBAs and things like that. All of us, I think that was their foresightedness, which helped us to move forward in the life.
What a fantastic story, Naresh. It not just shares your grit and determination to succeed, but also ability to invest and have that foresightness for your parents, right? Who have been from a farming kind of a background. That is amazing story, Naresh.
So when decision came to my daughter going to India or going to the US, my wife reminded me, hey, your father invested in education. So doesn't matter. Don't count the money here. Make the decision what's the better decision for in the long run. And that's how she ended up with Purdue University.
Wow. Thank you so much, Naresh. I think that is a very, very endearing story of generations of investing in education and in life itself.
Thank you very much.
So true, Naresh. See, you started your career in India and you moved to US right after that. Can you talk about why you moved to US and what made you come back to India?
Okay. So there is a story though in this one, and I'll keep it brief because usually I take long time to narrate that story. Actually, I never wanted to go to US. So I happened to be working late. I usually used to work late till 11 or 12 in the midnight every day. And one evening I got a call from HCL saying, hey, do you want to go to US? I said, no, I don't want to go to US. Then this guy said, okay, doesn't matter. Why don't you share your resume and you can decide later if you want to go or not. I said, if I don't want to go it, why you are asking me to go to it? Then he said, eventually he convinced me saying, while you're going back home, just slip your resume underneath the door because nobody will be there at that point of time. I said, fine, I'll do that. So I went to my place and slipped my resume underneath the door. Next day, I got a call and saying, hey, your appointment letter is ready.
Wow. Okay. That quick.
That quick, no interview, nothing, no written test, nothing. And your appointment is ready. And why don't you go to US next week? I said, I don't want to go to US. Why you're saying so? He said, doesn't matter. Take your appointment letter and you can decide whether you want to go or not. I went home, taking that appointment letter, told my family, hey, somebody is asking me to go to US and here it is. And then everyone was after me, why you don't want to go to the US? So finally I decided to go to US. That's how, then at that point of time, HCL was sending people on B1 visas to start with, and then eventually they will convert to the H1. So they asked me to go to Chennai to get my visa stamping done. And I went to this consulate, the big queue, and I never seen that kind of crowd before or waiting outside. And eventually I managed to get there. And then this lady, which was interviewing me, said, there's not enough documents, and she sent me back. So I came back. I was happy that naturally I don't want to go to US. It's happening. I don't have to worry about. Fine, good. So a week later, they again said, why don't you go again? We have completed that paperwork, whatever they wanted. Okay, I went again. I took the Air India flight, which started here 11. Flight was scheduled for 10. Usually will start 1 a.m. in the morning. Got to Chennai, and by the time it was 4:30, and I knew that there will be a queue, so directly, instead of going to hotel, directly went to the consulate, and then again went to the queue. I went to the consulate, and she said, this was the same consulate. And she said, still, I'm not granting the visa because I need more paper. I was much more happy again. And I knew that after 2 times, so the third time, usually they don't grant visas. And so I was completely happy saying it happened what I wanted. Month later, HCL said, no, let's try one more time. Go there. Same process happened. Went to the counselor, the same lady again. And she said, you are back. I said, yes, I am back. She remembered my face somehow and said, okay, go and deposit the fee.
Oh my goodness.
I may have not narrated this story to you before, but that's what actually happened.
Wow.
And
amazing.
And then I ended up quitting my current job and decided to move on. So that's how I went to the US. So in first place, if I was not interested to go there, it's not that I didn't like it. I enjoyed it. It was fun. I moved around. I stayed in San Jose. I stayed in New York. I stayed in Boston. I stayed in Portland. I moved around, made friends, met people, and it was all fun. But at the end of the day, I said, why don't I should go back? So I decided to come back. Nevertheless, and I don't know if I narrated this story also before to you or not, HCL was in a business of outsourcing the people, basically, the taking the turnkey projects and outsourcing the people.
Okay.
So I was working with a company called Symantec, and Symantec offered me the job. They said, the team that you are working with will make you the manager of that.
Okay.
The salary that you're drawing today will double that.
Okay.
Then I said, no, I still want to go back. So I think it's a little bit in my nature to be more instantaneous, making the decision, and I did that, and I decided to move back here in India. There was no specific reason as you were looking for that why I went there, why I came back. I went there just because, possibly you can say, because I had a social pressure, say, to earn some money, and came back because I wanted to come back.
So that is a very important one, right? That was the time when there was a demand for talented people to be in the US. And as you narrated, right, I also realized that the time that you came back was also a time of reverse brain drain, where large Indian companies were set up and product companies were set up. And you also had set up one of those largest network management systems in India.
No, this is not the time I'm referring to. This is the 95 actually.
Oh,
This is
you're not
not
referring to Cisco systems.
This is not 2000 yet.
Okay, I
This is
see what happened.
95 yet.
Okay.
So part of the region was, and then it might be just be part of my fear or whatever it is, saying, I kind of said, I want to get married at this point of time.
Okay.
And I don't want the girl to think that she has right to be in US all along. So I want to go back and get married and set a condition saying, I'm here. So that's what you got right now. So decided to come back. Came back for a month, just took a rest. And then I started to look out for a job. The company HCL had a good office in here in Gurgaon. So went there, they said, okay, you start the job as soon as you can. I also got an offer, four more offers actually, and all of them were similar nature, being the team lead, including the Hughes, River and Software Group, and Usha Software, basically. I think that's what it was. Then I decided to join the Hughes HSS or Hughes Software Systems or Edison, or whatever you want to call it. About a month later, I realized they were moving to Gurgaon and I was moving to Noida, which happened to be good 50 kilometers apart. So eventually I decided to ditch that, because to start with, when I started my career in 90, I was staying in Rohini and going to far places, and I've seen how much time it takes to get from one end to another end of Delhi. So I decided to move on and joined a company called River Software Group, which was into business of doing the networking softwares. In fact, mobility software. And the company was innovative enough. Whatever we see on the phone happening today, we were trying to do back then.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We were trying to make the mail clients. We were trying to make the database access. We were trying to create a productive tools while for the workforce, which is mobile. Though phones were bigger and larger in size and the devices were bigger, capacity was less, but that's what we're trying to achieve. We were doing some embedded software and telecom softwares and things like that. So did that, and meanwhile got married too, and then decided to go back again. So that's how I ended up with Cisco Systems.
Awesome, Naresh. So what is your current role, Naresh? What are you doing now?
Well, just to complete briefly before that. So as you said, I worked there in network management there, then came back in Bangalore, did the network management there till 2005, decided to come back to North India once again, start working on the stacks and things like that for telecom, and the gateways, the voice gateways and things like that here, and then joined a company which was doing a VAS, basically you hear the ringback tone, the songs and all that kind of a thing. That's what I was doing for a while. Then we saw a problem saying, hey, documentation, digitization of documentation safekeeping is a challenge for individuals. You don't find it when you need it. Be it your medical record, be it your warranty card, be it your any other records, property documents, your education documents, or anything like this. And then we said maybe this is a problem space that we want to attack. So we, along with two other partners, we started this company called Clito, Next Gen Paper Solutions Private Limited, which was set out to do the document management for individuals.
Okay.
And doing that for 1.5 years, we were looking for the funding. Nevertheless, no VC was willing to fund because similar project was not happening elsewhere in the world, and they were more looking for the project which is already successful elsewhere. They would like to fund that. So eventually we didn't got the funding, and any consumer-based product always takes lots of money to publicize it, digital marketing, hoarding, paper, TV, or whatever it needs to be done. That we said we will not be able to carry out. And there were two choices, either close the shop or look for alternatives. So while we were doing this marketing and interacting with the people were also saying, hey, you're trying to do with individuals, but the problem is also very acute for corporates. That's where we decided to pivot ourselves and do the corporate document management, which is as a end-to-end service, which would provide them the categorization, digitization, indexing, physical storage of the document. All that will be provided, and software, it will be available as software as service. So that's what we started to do, and that's what I'm doing till now.
Oh, wow. Amazing, Naresh. You actually rode the wave of digital wave, is it?
Yes, in fact, even before Modi ji was talking about digitalizations, etc., we were trying to do that. And I think the whole India would benefit immensely with this wave of digitalizations, because in pandemic that we have seen that it's not always paper will be in front of you. You have to work from home, you have to work from the remote office, you have to work from other office or outside country. And therefore, all the information should be available, accessible all the time. In addition to that, this is definitely tangible that you can see it. Other factors are probably the environment is not getting cut and the environment is better and things like that. So that's the motive that we started with. We are glad we have a good number of customers, corporate, big customers now, and we are helping them.
When you spoke about pivoting from individual customers to corporate, right? Has there been any other pivots that you had to do during this startup?
Not any other pivot so far, because primarily the cost of running a project, which is B2B in nature, is usually less and starts giving the revenue much sooner. It might take longer to get as big as consumer, or may not get as big as consumer, but it's actually more predictive, and business starts happening right away. Okay. Therefore, we have been lucky that we don't have to pivot again.
Oh, fantastic. So Clito is right now across India and globally, Naresh?
No, it's primarily India.
Okay.
It's primarily India. We do serve certain companies which is outside India. That's primarily because their office, if some corporate office is here in India and they do have an office outside India as well, and they want to get that also managed, so we do support that. We don't have an office outside India. In fact, we have only one office here in Gurgaon, and we bring the physical documents right here. We digitize and do all processing over here and store here in NCR area.
Very, very different sort of work that you're doing compared to what you are doing in technology, right? You're actually using and leveraging technology to the max.
Creating to leveraging.
True. So, right now, as a co-founder, how does it feel different? You've been a technical manager, you've been an individual contributor, right? How has that changed your perspective?
See, I think as probably, you yourself have experienced, while doing the coding, you have a view of your modules.
True.
When you become a manager, you have a view of basically your applications or your area. And when you're heading a vertical, then you have a view of it vertical. But how do you put the whole puzzle together? It's not about just creating something, but it should help, and how the whole system helps your customers basically is understanding that. Here you get to involved in all aspects of the businesses, whether it's sales or marketing or finance, understanding the balance sheets, understanding what business is going, how to pay the salaries, admin, worry about do you have toilet clean and safe, and if COVID is coming, what all need to be done. So you end up, especially in a small startup setup like ours, most of the decision end up coming to your table. Therefore, you end up taking all those decisions. So it's basically similarly, it's very similar to even in technical ladder. As you keep on growing, you become more like a general manager, right? Where you are more involved into day-to-day aspect, who's leave, the promotions, and team building, and how to acquire this, how to hire, how to fire, how to train, how to retain, all that aspects. That's what becomes eventually. So it's more or less the same, but now we are also involved in other aspect of it, like how to grow the business, how to create a marketing, how to create basically the brand, what all attributes are there, how to build the organization, all that is still there overall for engineering. So though one distinct difference is in this setup where it's more constrained in terms of the resources and you have to do your best within those limitations. Whereas in a big corporate and when you grow up, basically you have more resources and you can plan it better.
Very true. In fact, Naresh, one of the things that I was thinking, see, as a founder mindset, right? You always have to think long term. While as a manager in a large corporate, you may be more tempted to look at this quarter, right? Or this quarter or this year.
That's true. You have to be more visionary in terms of your vision, and that vision is the one who becomes the carrier of the whole organization. Whereas it's not about delivering one delivery, it's about delivering the organization, and you start worrying about all your investors, all your customers. It's not just one dimension of the customer, but in terms of your investors, employees, government, environment, all that becomes your customer basically. You have to figure out how to manage that effectively, though at times they may be pulling you in different directions.
True. That's what I was thinking when you're talking about environment and resources constraint as well as shareholders. It's like, how do you really balance all of them, right?
Yeah, that's simple story, and at times it's part of the job, because when person is single, it's like easy to manage. When gets married, then become 2 dimensions. When kids comes along, then become 3. So people manage that. Similarly, we also grow up and start managing all that aspects. And one mantra for that simple mantra is thick skin. That's what I believe. And then as long as you can deflect at times and get angry at times and ignore and move on and see what value it provides or doesn't provide, take it what's right for you at that point of time and move on. So that's how you manage.
Very nice, right? In fact, one of the things that I remember about you is your keen sense of humor. Able to crack, have and make it more lighter. Any of these conversations and keep it cool.
Yeah, by nature I'm a little more serious guy.
Okay.
I'm a little more serious guy, but yeah, it's also like seriousness also catches with the age, basically.
Okay.
And whosoever basically can keep themselves more jolly, and that's better way to do it things. But effectively is you can't do much. It will happen the way it will happen, but you just have to do the best out of the situations and then move on.
You're almost giving a mantra of Bhagavad Gita. Do your best and let the outcomes just come out. Uh, Very interesting, Naresh. So, what are your keen sense of passions that you are right now pursuing in terms of learning or in terms of exploring new dimensions? Is there anything that you are trying to explore now that keeps you awake at night, for example?
Uh, basically, at this point of time, I think as would many people get into is look at the project and how to keep that project going, and whatever it takes to do, literally whatever it takes to make that happen. So that's what is more important. When I started working, I used to feel that engineers are more superior than anyone else. But over the time, I realized that whole engine doesn't work with one piston. It has to, all of them has to work together in a well-oiled machinery fashion, then only it will deliver. And therefore, how to keep the organization intact, how to make them learn, move forward, how to basically make yourself redundant so that they can shoulder the responsibilities and rather you can focus more in terms of long-term thinking. So those are the challenges that any time basically you'll find those challenges. Anybody whichever how so big is the manager is, will find those challenges. How to make the organization function like a well-oiled machinery.
Actually, you're speaking more as a founder and general manager than only as an engineer.
Technical aspects of it.
It's so nice to hear you.
Technical aspect, in fact, I stopped working technically as such quite long back. So I have been doing this general management or management since last 20 or 25 years now. So therefore, that's what will probably I know now. Though I realize that given a problem and if I have a time, I still lose the track of time. That's a technical problem.
Okay, very cool. I remember those late nights that we have slogged together to solve a problem, irrespective of what it takes.
Yeah. So the one thing which still gives me kick and where I lose the track of the time is a technical problem.
It's very true that sometimes we engineers think that we are the center of the universe and forget that customer is actually the center of the any universe, right? And we end up over engineering or over thinking things than what it has to be, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I agree with you 100% that we as an engineer, we are trained to be problem solver. What problem solver? The problem which is in our mind rather than thinking somebody else's problem. And I think I have this request or advice to most of the people saying, hey, look at your customer. Even not only customer, look at the society as a whole. Try to solve that problem. If you solve the problem of a society, it will help the customer because customer is also part of the society, and it will help you as well because you are also part of the society. So don't look at just the financial angle of the customer or in the last 50 years, we have seen deterioration in terms of whether it's air, water, or rivers are bad. And so everything around us is bad. We are overutilizing the environment. And if we can do something about the environment, saving the environment through our technical skills, of course, that will be a great service.
Very well put, Naresh. In fact, you read my mind. I was going to ask you any thoughts that you want to give to our listeners. You're bang on to say, hey, think about your surroundings, your society as a whole, and make that benefit. You almost read my mind. You spoke about young professionals, what they can focus on. What I was asking is, what is that thought that you want to leave with the listeners? Any story that you want to relate to them?
Sure, I do have a small thought that sometimes comes to my mind and many times comes to my mind. There is a dual problem being faced by our young engineers. One side, they are pushed away from the technical aspects because it's more like a solving the business problem. And rightly said, yeah, business solution and business problem should be solved. That's more productive rather than, and then it again goes back to saying, hey, it's not you are not satisfying yourself, you need to satisfy something else. You are here for something else. But same time, I'm finding young engineers getting away of the understanding what's happening underneath. And that becomes a problem for them to solve the problem at times. Even though your focus is to solve the business problems and issues like memories or CPU compute power or the network bandwidth is not a challenge or not a big challenge anymore, which used to be very big challenges for us, you still need to understand the underneath what is happening, what's going on, how it's happening, understand what threads, synchronizations, understand databases, how the table, what table, and what the normalization, how should do it. All that aspect, understand what algorithm you should pick up, even if you don't have to free the memory and memory is available in abundance. Still worry about it, saying what data structure is the best in these situations. Finding people are getting away and just using rut of the code, just putting the code together, which resolve the problem. There's nothing wrong in it. I'm not saying anything. Try to understand a little bit about how it gets delivered as well.
You're talking about fall in love with the code, fall in love with the technical craftsmanship at an overall basis. Fantastic, Naresh. Thank you so much for your time. I enjoyed talking to you a lot, and I'm sure listeners also going to enjoy this conversation.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me at this podcast.
We thank Siddharth for the music and Malavika for promoting the Software People Stories.
If you like this episode,
Please subscribe on your favorite podcast client.
And spread the word in your network.
if you'd like to share your story,
Contact us at podcasts@pm-powerconsulting.com.
This podcast was created on Hubhopper Studio. If you wish to start your own podcast for free, visit www.hubhopperstudio.com. Hubhopper is India's leading podcast creation platform. Start your podcast with Hubhopper Studio and you get your voice heard across platforms like Spotify, Ghana, Google Podcasts, Wink Music, and more. Click on the link in the episode description or visit www.hubhopperstudio.com.